Now, if you've ever opened a video app just even for a minute and then you ended up watching 10 tiny episodes back to back, you've already been swayed by the power of micro dramas. This morning, we're taking a closer look at this rising format that turns a few seconds into a full-blown story and is quietly reshaping digital entertainment industry in India and worldwide.
So what exactly is a micro drama? It is a tightly packed short video story, usually about 30 to 90 seconds, a little more maybe, designed to give you a full plot, conflict, emotional payoff, all in under a minute. Think of it as a snack-sized web series you can watch on the go.
Now, a few micro dramas of people waiting at 11 p.m. for the new drops, the way we once perhaps waited for TV premieres. What is interesting here is that audiences now expect stories to fit in the format of a reel. Quick, engaging, and must pack a punch. It's fast, it's cheap, addictive content built for your thumb. The plot wraps before your attention runs out, and that is the challenge.
And it's also working brilliantly. India is now among the biggest consumers of short video content in the world. Creators are producing hyper-local scripted series that speak directly to young audiences. Brands, influencers, even small-town creators are jumping right into this format because the scale is unlike anything we've seen before. Some of these reel series are pulling millions of views per episode. They're building fan bases without a single platform deal or studio crew.
Now, microdramas aren't just a new trend now. They're changing how stories are written, how they are produced, discovered, and obviously binged. So what does this shift mean for content creators, for actors, and for the business of storytelling?
Let's quickly go across to our very special panel joining us this morning. They're going to be unpacking everything about this new wave in the industry. First up, we're being joined by Anup Vijay Thanvi, Head of Content at Vertical TV. He's going to take us through what we've seen through the last few months and how this phenomena is exploding month in and out. Also joining us this morning is Jonty, Director and Producer at SW Studios. And lastly, we're being joined by Apurva Arora. She's an actor, she's worked herself in micro dramas, and so she'll be in the best position to tell us how actors are looking at this changing trend in the industry. I would first begin with Jonty. Jonty, it all began with China, South Asian countries. That's where this trend first picked up. Slowly, India's embracing it, but it's picking up fast. It's almost exploding. That's the rate at which we're seeing this reach to the audiences. Why has India gotten it into now, and what trend have you witnessed the last few months?
Absolutely. I think China, South Korea for that matter, really picked up back in 2016-17, or I think 2020 is when it actually started off. And I really think the kind of storytelling, the kind of sensibilities that those South Korean dramas and those emotions that they initially picked up with is what Indians really resonate with, and I think that's what's catching up right now, and it really looks like a fresh new format of storytelling.
All right, Anup, if I could just come to you on that as well, just to expand on this a little further. Now, Christine, wouldn't you say microdrama is really like the espresso shot of storytelling?
100%.
Fast, intense, addictive. Now, why do you think audiences are suddenly so hooked?
So, I mean, their consumption pattern usually is determined by what they consume on social media, right? And on social media, they usually get content that's really snacky, and they would consume just the first 3 seconds and decide whether they'd want to watch the video. And that's the same consumption pattern that has sort of translated onto fiction as well. Today, nobody has the time to go through too many minutes of an episode or a story or a film and then decide whether they'd want to watch it. They'd want to decide within the first 3 or 5 seconds. And that's what microdramas are about, hooking you in the first 3, 5, 10, or at the max 30 seconds to make sure that you watch every episode that's being shown to you.
But Anup, that also means there's never, or there should never be a low point throughout those 60, 90 seconds, right? So that's a lot of pressure on content creators, on people working on this.
Sure, it definitely is pressure, But the good thing is that now writers have slowly started to understand that even for long form fiction, even for other formats of content, you have to make sure that your first few offerings to the audience or to the viewers are impeccably interesting, and your characters sort of are interesting enough to pull through the entire story. Your characters can never have a low point. Also, their reactions have to be beyond normal, which is what we've realized, that your subtle reactions, your subtle lifestyle would never engage a viewer, versus everything OTT, everything over the top is something that viewers are actually lapping up.
Okay, I want to quickly bring in Apurva, and then you
Absolutely.
can follow up on this one. But Apurva, I'm going to start with a little difficult question this morning for you, and I'm going to place two options right in front. One is Family Aajkal, and the other is Ilaka. Ilaka is the micro drama that you've done. So 3 seasons out already. If I were to ask you, what do these two mean for you, and how are they different from each other? I'm not going to ask you to pick a favorite because that will be a little difficult, but
Right.
tell
Thank
us
you.
more about the journey there.
Honestly, I think you've picked the best ones for me because in the last 2-3 years, these are the two shows that I've had the best time working on. There's been an insane amount of prep, a lot of discussions with the director, a lot of rehearsals, readings, meeting with the actors, taking time on set to actually, perform the scene, get used to the set, make it your own. Sometimes also come up with new things after a few takes and then sort of incorporate that. With that being in mind, I feel that for an actor, there's absolutely no difference. For an actor, their job is just to do as the director says. Of course, you come up with your own ideas. The idea is to, be the right frequency, be the right pace, be the right mood, the character, and just try to tell the story the way it's meant to be told. That's all an actor needs to do. Doesn't really matter what platform, whether it's a show or a
Apurva's telling us
film.
that there's no difference really
Right.
between a micro drama and a web series from an actor perspective.
Right, and that's interesting because
Yes.
that's exactly what I wanted to come to. Do you think this introduction of micro dramas can perhaps provide actors, because I would think it can provide actors with more creative control, more narrative control, perhaps help them build a body of work so that that can help them across platforms, across formats as well.
Absolutely. I think, first of all, you get to build an audience. And for someone like me, that's very, very important that numbers come in and producers, directors, casting directors start trusting me more. They might never have doubted the work that I do, but a lot of times people do also want to look at the numbers. So when you have that kind of audience, you have that kind of a fan base who's actually watched you and used to your face, so to say, I think it helps an actor get more and more opportunities. Also, I think it's great to keep your acting chops warmed up,
Okay, I do want to go across to Jonty once again. Jonty, let's get back to the drawing board. So for a producer, for a director working on a short format, a vertical format, picking that as your form of storytelling, tell us about the ingredients here. So budget-wise, turnaround time-wise, also it has to be snappier writings, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I wish my answer was similar to Apurva's, where there's no difference across mediums to as a director, as a producer, but it's very different. I think from both angles. As a director, I am limited by the medium. While I'd like not to call it a limitation because of the vertical format, the kind of storytelling that you do, the kind of editing, the kind of pacing that you do is very different, because you cannot show landscapes, you cannot show a certain vastness to it. So what you're playing with is purely characters, purely actors, their emotions, their arcs and everything, which is great again for actors. And as a producer, it's a very, very tough category to crack, because it's quick, it's very efficient when it comes to the storytelling. So many people have been doing it, and it actually picked up a lot with TikTok in US back in 2020 and 21, and that's why you can actually be at home, make a micro drama on your phone and be out there on the internet. So that's actually gotten the expectations down to the bare minimum for everyone around it. So, like for instance,
So are these
people-
micro dramas being shot without your typical expensive cameras, that kind of crew? What kind of work is going into
yes.
it?
I think the way we're shooting microdramas now is to bring it down to, for instance, not a cine camera but a DSLR, which is quick and efficient, and as well as you can have multiple of them shooting parallelly so that there's enough footage. Like I was going to say, you shoot a typical feature film, let's say in a 30 or a 45-day period. The same duration of content you would be shooting in 6 or 7 or 8 days in a typical microdrama.
Apurva's
that's-
a living example. 3 seasons already of the microdrama
Exactly.
she just worked on.
Right, and of course, with that, just based on what you've said as well, vertical TV is booming as well. That being said, do you think we're also risking oversaturation here?
I don't think so, to be honest, because users generally are used to consume so much content these days, especially on social media, that no matter how much content we put out, our data genuinely suggests that people are consuming hours worth of content every day. So there's, of course, no saturation from the point of view of creative content and people's consumption. Of course, there could be some clutter with not so great content coming in. But I don't think there's a lot of saturation at this point. We're still at a nascent stage.
So who's the typical microdrama viewer in India today, Anup? If I can just put it that way, can you classify it? Is it tier 2, tier 3 people? Because a lot of comments have come in suggesting that the tier 1 is still not giving into this content as yet.
I would say otherwise, to be honest. Of course, there's a heavy bent towards tier 2, but tier 1 audiences are catching up. I'll give you just one simple example. When we started out, of course, we had your regular drama stories, but then the kind of stories that started catching up, the kind of stories that started being appreciated, were the kind of stories that a tier 1 audience would also consume and really like, right? And today, the differentiation between a tier 1, tier 2 audience is sort of really merged. There's no clear demarcation. People have access to OTTs and so many other films and so much more content through social media that the differentiation in itself is a little blurred. So I'd say if you clearly want to demarcate a tier 1 audience, they're slowly catching up, and they're also appreciating newer genres of content like sci-fi, pure thrillers, apart from the regular dramas that every micro OTT is known for.
Let me just come back to a point that you were making earlier as well. Speaking of clutter here, that of course in turn I'm assuming would make discoverability harder. So how does a creator or a platform beat that?
So for platforms, it's fairly simple. Performance marketing is what actually drives a lot of consumption and content growth, right? And of course, social media is actually a very organic way of growing your database or your viewer base, right? And a lot of influencers and a lot of known actors are sort of adopting this form of cinema, which also helps us maximize our reach.
Okay, Apurva, speaking of which, speaking of acting and the kind of work you have to put in for this kind of format, do you think it's also enhanced or taken the entire celebrity fan base engagement to another level? Has that changed for you?
It actually has a little bit. It's starting to now. People are kind of getting used to the fact that they might get to see me not only on an OTT platform or a big screen, but also on their phones. And most of the audience is right now aware, that there's a new category called a second screen. So people tend to use their phones a lot, and then that's the kind of shows that are being made now so that people can actually still keep scrolling. So why not give them something to watch while they keep on scrolling? They get to scroll every 30 to 60 seconds. Why not? But also the audience is very, very smart. They're very, very aware of the fact that if it's not a second screen content, they do put the phones down. If you give them something good, something engaging, a good story that's been worked on, They do watch it. If you give them more shows of the film Agra, they will go and watch it. So I think the audience is very, very, very smart, and I'm very glad that I kind of jumped on the bandwagon at the right time, because it's always good to make that kind of space and move with the times, because I have grown up watching films. I have grown up wanting to be in films, but I also need to understand that my thought process might just be outdated at this point. I might just be clinging to that thought of, oh, I will only be seen on a big screen or a long
Right.
format show. Also, I have this is not this this doesn't feel like it's new to me, the kind of storytelling, because as an actor in my early days, I've been a part of a lot of ads. And there you have to tell stories in maximum 30 seconds, sometimes even 10 seconds. So I feel like this doesn't feel like pressure anymore, because luckily I got to work with some great ad filmmakers as well. But I think it's pretty much the same. Of course, not the budgets for sure, but it's the feeling of it, the the delivery of the story, the narrative. It's pretty much the same. The only difference is that here there is a brand, and in a micro drama, there's probably no
The
brand
budget might
as
not
of
be the
now.
same, but the revenue is great of what we
It
see
is.
of the numbers so far.
Now, speak of great ROI, right? And just, I'm really glad that you mentioned what you said about perhaps how you view content is different now because, well, you have your reasons. But that being said, we've seen this with OTT as well. There is always some sort of resistance when it comes to new formats, the way we consume content, and the way we create content as well. That being said, do you think micro dramas are on their way to get the kind of recognition perhaps daily soaps do? And because we've seen that even for OTT, it took a while for some of the bigger stars to also come to OTT, accept it, and realize that that's the new way that we consume content now.
Is that for Anoop?
Yes, that's one.
Anoop.
So, of course, the recognition is on its way, and I think it's going to come sooner than later. Reasons being, companies like ours, of course, started out with a promise of delivering cinematic content and content that really looks aesthetic, film-worthy, and the reception has been great. The reception has been more than welcoming, and I think that's the reason why the acceptance is going to be very, very high. And I think the audience reception is, of course, going to be positive enough for it to be able to compete with TV and film. And of course, like Apurva rightly pointed out, the phone was your second screen, but it's slowly getting to become your primary screen for every user. And once it's your primary screen, everybody is going to look at content in a very, very different light. And I think it's already a primary screen for most of our, younger audiences, people between the ages of 18 to 25, 18 to 30 rather. So they consume most of their content on their mobile phones. Even films cut into bite-sized content pieces across Instagram get great conversions, get great consumption numbers. So
It's
I think
not so much of a good news, Anoop, though, for parents watching this. I mean, if the children are going to be hooked onto their, gadgets for 20, 30 episodes in one go, it's certainly going to be spoken of as doom scrolling, right?
Speaking of
Of course,
parents,
of
I
course.
think parents are more addicted to their phones
Oh,
at
is
this
it?
point. So maybe there's a dearth of material for them to watch as well.
Okay.
Right.
That's
I
always
second
something
Apurva
we
on
could
that.
dive into.
Okay,
People are already
Jonty,
hooked
very
into it.
very quickly, what about the future? So what innovations in storytelling, filmmaking are going to drive this next phase in micro dramas? Brands are also slowly tapping into this opportunity. So they're also now coming out with their own series of vertical formats.
Exactly, because I come from advertising and that's how I started off my career. Reels and this format had already picked up way before microdramas came in, where Instagram and ads were made specifically for that vertical format in Instagram. So the back end of it, with respect to the kind of equipment being used, the kind of structure being used, or the kind of people being aligned to it, I think is already in place to an extent. While the absorbing of storytelling across it is something that people are doing. Amazon MX Player is launching their platform for it within a month. So OTTs are also jumping onto it. very soon. And I think the future definitely holds with the brands jumping into the bandwagon. I'm creating one for a very well-known bhujia brand, which will happen soon. Mokobara started off with one of their pages, which is Mokobaru.
Yeah.
And I think it's already going to pick up because, as Apurva and Anoop said, people are on their phones. So brands will reach wherever people are and they will start making stories and content, which will be the future, I feel.
Right, and I just want to talk numbers here as well. So what we are seeing, and if we were to look at the statistics here, it's projected that this is going to be a $1.1 billion market in the next 5 years. Also to that, I want to add that no one truly understands how content creators make money, right? No one's fully understood what that model looks like. Is it just sponsorships? And to that end, I want to ask, when it comes to micro dramas, while you're not perhaps required it doesn't require as much funding or financing, when it comes to making money off of these and the monetization model here, how does that differ from perhaps the more commonplace models? Jonty, let me just come to you on that first.
See, in terms of as you said, revenues may be great, but right now it's not trickling down to the creators creating it. But that is also because I think this format does not require the kind of infrastructure that a film or a web series or a full-fledged TBC or a DVC would naturally require. So in terms of, it's definitely, as a director, as a producer, or even as an actor, I'm sure, because we end up accumulating the whole thing, it is not a great paymaster at all right now. It's just something which is, I feel, sustaining people to an extent where it's interesting, it's fun, but it's something that's not definitely helping a lot of revenues from the crew and people who are already working in different segments of the industry.
And it's a relatively new concept. So I think we also need to give it time. I think if this conversation is had 5 months from now or 10 months from now, I think so much will change around it. Apurva, what about actors? So you said you were very comfortable with the format given that you've done a lot of advertisements, etc. But do you see in the future, for instance, micro-drama actors crossing over to OTT and web series, and how big of an opportunity can that be if that does happen indeed?
I personally would not like to be limited to one medium ever, and that's something that I have been very careful of. But I feel like it might just happen. It might help a lot of actors find work, which I'll be very happy if they do, because I think it takes a little while sometimes for people to start trusting actors when it comes to casting. I think this is a great way for actors to break into something. It's a great way for actors. For example, I've worked with Mr. Rajpal Yadav, and I'm sure there is no dearth of work, but he probably wanted to do this for the team that reached out to him, for the story that was narrated to him. So I feel that actors are going to keep experimenting here and there. There'll be actors who probably need to, who feel like getting out of the house. There's been a while since they've been on a set, and a microdrama shoot comes along. It's only 3 or 4 days. It's less of a commitment, less of a risk. They might just go ahead and do it. And I genuinely don't think that actors will be limited, so to say. And I hope they're not. But a lot of actors now will get used to the idea of
and we have the last 30 seconds, and I do want to go across to Anoop very quickly on this. Anoop, do you see this format complementing the existing TV soaps and web series format, or do you think this could also be a threat in the near future?
I think it could definitely be a threat. Of course, it's coming on your mobile phones. It's near you. You don't have to go to a cinema hall. You don't have to switch on your TV. You finish a phone call and you can watch an episode. You finish texting someone, you can watch an episode. You're traveling and you can watch an episode or the entire series, if I may say so. So I think it's definitely a threat.
You also don't need your tablets for this.
Right,
so you
and
have
as
it on your
Jonty
phone.
said, the advertisers will come where the people are. So that's going to
Lovely.
be.
Thank you so much, the three of you, for joining us this morning and for this very wonderful conversation. It's a great way to walk into your weekend.
Right.
Let's head into a very short break on that note. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for